Hello again. Back for more, are we? Unfortunately, I'm feeling a bit down this week, because I left this one feeling quite underwhelmed. But how about we start from the beginning? Genocide as a title is perhaps the most apt it could be, with the plot being based on a simple question. Does an innocent world deserve to die just because it was never meant to exist? It's an interesting premise, but when the race they're trying to erase is humanity, it becomes a lot harder for me to empathise with them. The Tractites are a race that have been ravaged by humanity in the future. The Earth Empire have sacked their worlds and killed almost all of them bar a single military regiment. Racked with grief and hell-bent on revenge, they travel back in time using a time tree to wipe out humanity's ancestors, creating a paradox that will tear the universe apart. The structure of the book honestly feels quite strange. We begin with a nice prologue setting the scene, a prehistoric man who returns to his village where he finds it to be ravaged and burning, thanks to black ox-like creatures with ginormous hooves. So far so good. We have a secondary setting to contemporary Earth and a potential villain along the way. But throughout we get small interludes in italics from the future, of the Doctor talking about a corpse to one of the Tractites. This happens every couple of paragraphs or so, and really weirdly breaks up the story, because I have no idea where this is supposed to slot in, and even after reading the whole thing I still don't know where they're supposed to slot in. Every time they appeared I ended up just switching my brain off, and in the end they had no bearing on the story whatsoever. So what gives? Let's get to the Doctor and Sam, who instead of landing on Earth have landed on the planet of Paratractis, a planet which looks quite similar to Earth in its raw natural form. Spoilers, of course, it is Earth. The duo have just managed to move into another timeline where the Tractites were successful and managed to wipe out humanity. This is where we get my favourite creation from Paul Leonard, being the Jones-Richter scale. This is a trouble rating scale invented by Sam, where 1 means that they've landed the TARDIS in the wrong place, 5 means that they're in a war zone, and 10 means that they've ended the universe. Though Sam only says this towards the beginning, I absolutely loved this detail, and hope that it's used more throughout the rest of the series. It's great at showing just how long she's been travelling with the Doctor, despite the fact that it's only the 4th novel. She's already adapted to life travelling, and thus has come up with her own little inside jokes. That's what I really love about these books. It's the tiniest of details that hold up the entire thing. It's just a shame that the rest of the story doesn't manage to carry the weight. Speaking of Sam, she's a lot more consistently written here. It feels like her character has finally been properly fleshed out and given the time that it needs to succeed. Thankfully, this time there's only a single weird scene involving her, where she's groped by a 4 million-year-old prehistoric man. Hopefully not one of her ancestors, though that's a bit likely. It's weird, but at least it only happens once. The Doctor is just more of the same. It seems to be quite difficult to get his character wrong, and I have a feeling for the rest of the series it's going to be like this, where the Doctor is just really well written, and then Sam gets the short straw, but we'll see. This one did take me a lot longer to read, a bit like Vampire Science, but unlike Vampire Science, this one was just straight up boring at parts. Jo Grant makes an appearance. She's linked with 2 archaeologists called Rowena and Julie, whose names I had to look up as I couldn't for the life of me remember. But I honestly don't remember really doing that much. She's part of the plot because she's contacted by the 2 archaeologists who've discovered a 4 million-year-old Homo sapiens skull, being of course the one on the cover. And then she's stopped by Captain Jacob Hines of UNIT and investigated. She gets embroiled in the story slightly, helps Sam, and then is just sent home. That's it. No grand reconnecting with the Doctor, no grand reintroduction. It's just kind of like, oh, you're here? Bye then. It's actually quite sad, especially when compared to how she was reintroduced in the revival. There she has like 7 kids, thousands of grandkids, she's happily married and continues to travel the world helping people wherever she goes. Here, on the other hand, she's divorced, has 1 child as a single mother, and that's about it. She didn't take the lesson she'd learned from the Doctor and applied it to her natural goodwill, like in the revival. Instead, she just leaves her only child to go off to South Africa because 2 people called her. Sergeant Benton also makes a cameo, but it's no more than just that, a cameo. Not exactly one of the story's key draws. Compared to how Lightfoot was handled in the last novel, Yeah, it's extremely disappointing to see these even more fan-favourite characters just be absolutely wasted. Let's talk about something that I actually did enjoy, just to leave on a more positive note, and this time I've got two, the first being Jacob Hines and the second being Kittig. Starting with Hines, he's our main villain, and his introductory scene sets the tone for him perfectly. He's an American, as for some reason the EDAs are just hanging on to the fact that the TV movie was made for an American audience, and is introduced basically just shouting at an environmental demonstration group about why they're stupid. Not because they're hippies or whatever, no, God no. It's because they're not thinking big enough. He wants to wipe out the entire human race because they're poisoning the planet. They're bringing species to extinction. Of course, by his time in the 1990s, it's way too late. So he needs to go back in time and do it right from the beginning as a preemptive strike.
Well, now I know you're mad. I just wanted to make sure.
He sounds absolutely insane, and rightfully gets called out by the demonstrators. Yet the thing is, from an objective point of view, his logic actually does make some sort of sense. We can see the result of his plans through Paratractis, and while of course there aren't any humans anymore, the planet is significantly healthier, more species are allowed to thrive and not just be poisoned. But looking at it from another point of view, is what humanity did not just nature? The strong survive and the weak die. Humanity's been at the top of the food chain for millions of years. Of course some species are bound to be wiped out in that time. This is where Kittig comes in, a native and product of Paratractis. He and his species live there peacefully, they keep the land healthy and live pretty much in harmony with planet Earth. When the Doctor shows up, and Sam, though against the Doctor's wishes, takes Kittig back with them to the primary timeline, he provides an opposing point of view. Sure, Paratractis was never meant to exist, it's a world built on the blood of 1,000 generations, but it did end up existing, so does this simple fact invalidate its entire existence? Sure, humans were there first, but they're not there now. It's something that I'd say is similar to the Silurian dilemma. Kittig ultimately has to make a choice. Does he do what's right for humanity, or does he do what's right for his own species, his children, his wife, people that were never really meant to exist? Of course, the choice is obvious when you realise Earth's importance in the grand scheme of things. Without it, the entire universe breaks down, and just probably ends due to the absolute magnitude of a paradox that would be created. But still, it's an unfortunate reality. Overall, I'll say Genocide is a middle-of-the-road 5 out of 10. Not the action itself, the book of course. I've avoided using the term throughout just in case YouTube picks it up for censorship, opting instead for wiping out, which does the job just as well. It has some interesting ideas, and behind it a deep philosophical question that you can only really get in sci-fi. But when one side we as the reader have a personal stake in, yes, it adds another layer, but at the same time it also makes the choice very easy. But then if you add on top of that the importance of Earth and the Doctor universe, yeah, it's kind of a no-brainer. Perhaps if it was two completely new worlds that are a bit less significant and could be developed individually, yeah, then it may be different. But at the end of the day, we shall never know. Next time is the one that I have been second most waiting for, with War of the Daleks, and I really cannot wait to go over it. But as always, if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below, as it really helps out the channel, and also notifies you if you want to see any more. But as always, I'll see you then, and thanks for watching.